Hello. Hello.
Hey, Paul. How are you?
Good morning. Morning still.
Morning.
It's been a long day for you guys, is it not?
Not really.
No,
It's
it's
kind of the start, yeah. Right. You're taking on Volkan Ozdemir, who's lost his last couple. He's obviously had a very fast rise in the UFC. Do you feel like he's on any sort of decline, or what are your thoughts on Volkan right now?
No, you can't. You can't, because somebody's had a few losses in their sport, you can't say they're on a decline. Just his rise was a lot quicker. Like, if you compare his rise to my rise, knocks out a few folk and gets that title shot, doesn't go his way. But he's still a dangerous opponent, so you can't rule him out and just be like, he's on the slip, you know, and Paul's in the rise. Just my journey was a slightly bit different. You know, I ended up going through, like, it was a crazy journey, getting through where I started and just being on the fringes of that top 15 and not getting any closer, you know, fighting guys who weren't in the top 10, fighting guys who were new to the sport, and it was just felt like I was just grinding to try and get anywhere, whereas Ozdemir was just touching folk and getting up further and further and further. But no, you can't write him out. But I just believe it's my time. I just believe that in life there's moments that change your life, and this is going to be one of them for me. I'm 8, he's 9. I need this victory. I need to be making my way further up that ranking to get closer to that goal. That's ultimately what I want to do with this sport.
You've been often underestimated, but I feel like you've been getting the respect. Do you feel that as well? Do you feel like people have stopped kind of counting you out?
Yeah, I remember using the line saying I was like the Homer Simpson of the light heavyweight division. You know, when he starts boxing, he's getting knocked out of. These people are just wailing on him, and then all of a sudden he would just push them over. I had like tipped myself that. I'd also tipped myself as like the gatekeeper for like the top 15. Like, you know, I was a doorman. I was standing there outside the nightclubs, like, you can't get in. If you could beat me, you deserved to get in, and if you couldn't beat me, then you were out. And for a long time, that's the guy I was. But now I'm getting the recognition. People are like, right, Paul's got jiu-jitsu, and his stand-up's not too bad. You know, that was one of the things that I had to change in my head. Trying to be a stand-up fighter when it's not in your nature is very difficult. You can train it and you can get good at it, but what you need to do is you need to lean into what got you to the dance. Like if you're a goalkeeper and you decide, you know what, one day I'm just going to start playing left back in football. It doesn't work that way. You've got to actually train in these positions. So you're a keeper, just stay there. I'm a jiu-jitsu fighter, just stay there. Lie on my back and let guys fall into my triangle.
Well, that's a very honest assessment that you just said. I mean, going through that period, was that tough for you?
Yep. It's like you need to find out who you are, and sometimes you need to be lying in Glasgow in the middle of the OVO Hydro, knocked out, to realise who you are. And that was like a point in my life where, why were you trying to stand up with a striker? Why were you trying to stand up with a dude who flings grenades? I should have taken him down and I should have subbed him. That's what got me to the UFC. And for some reason, when I went to my second and my third fight in the UFC, I decided that I was like, no, I'm Floyd Mayweather. Watch me slip. Didn't work that way. Watch me slip into a shot and get knocked out. Changed that. Mindset changed. Now I'm a guy who's like, watch me take loads of punches, ride the storm and take you down, or you take me down and I sub you. That's what my game plan is now. Easier if they take me down, because then I don't actually have to work. So, MD that's out there is like, my jiu-jitsu is better than Paul Craig in the light heavyweight division, then take me down and save me like a couple of minutes if we try to drag you to the mat.
That being said, are you kind of looking at it as a striker versus grappler matchup, and what do you make of Volkan's grappling? You know,
everybody in the top 10 is going to have amazing grappling. There's nobody that's going to have no jiu-jitsu in there. I find it unbelievable if you've managed to get to the top 10 of any division without basic understanding of grappling. He's got a very, very good defence for his double leg. I know that. But when you've got a guy who's overhooting you and just trying to pull you to the mat, I don't mind pulling guard. We've seen me doing it before, and I know I got a lot of stick for it. Originally got a lot of stick for it. People are like, Paul Craig's pulling guard in the UFC. What the hell? Now people are like, Paul Craig's pulling guard. Yay. But I believe my wrestling's slightly better than his. The way I remember playing this game with my kids. It's called Top Trumps. It's like, who's better in these slightly better? Like, is my striking as good as Ozdemir's? Nah, potentially going to win that, right? He's probably a 10. I'm probably like a 3. So I'm not going to use that card. I'm not going to be like striking Paul Craig. I believe my jiu-jitsu's better than his, probably a 10. He's like a 3, and then it's the same for my wrestling. I believe my wrestling's higher than his calibre of wrestling. Right, he's been training over at All Stars, and he's trained with like Alistair over him. He's trained with all these guys, but they don't. His training partners will not have my style of jiu-jitsu. It's very, very hard to mimic. It's very, very hard to get somebody who's like me, who's built like a swimmer and has the attributes that I have. And it's like, for somebody to copy how Ozdemir fights is so much easier. Walk forward, swing lefts, swing rights, and look to knock me out. That's easy to mimic. When Ozdemir's like, what I need you to do is I need you to mimic Paul Craig. What I need you to do is pull guard and work your ass off with your legs to try and choke me out. Not a lot of people can do that.
Thank you.
Paul, you mentioned that you've now kind of embraced your fighting style completely now, and you're not trying to be something that you're not. Was that defeating Glasgow like the moment that really clicked for you, or is it something that's sort of developed over the last few fights?
Yeah, Glasgow was definitely that moment of changing my life. Like, I remember going out to fight Tyson Pedro at 209 and having confidence in my stand-up. Like, this is crazy. Like, I was going in there thinking, right, couple of jabs, couple of crosses, a couple of slips. We'll see this out. We'll be in the MGM in no time, right? Didn't work that way. And the same in Glasgow. I had this in my head that I was going to outstrike him. I was working with different striking coaches, was having confidence in my striking. Like, I have the ability to strike. It's not like it's non-existent. Just, you need to lean into what you're good at. And Glasgow was that kind of time where you're like, why didn't you just take him down? Why didn't you bring him into your expertise? Why would you fight somebody on their home turf in their style of fighting? It doesn't make sense. And for me, I had to learn that the hard way, and it was getting knocked out.
Yeah, and you mentioned the whole top trumps thing and like the skill discrepancy in terms of striking. You could flip that for the grappling.
Yes.
But every fight starts standing up, right? So the onus, I guess, is on you to get the fight to the mat, because Volkan probably isn't going to want to take it down there. So how do you go about bridging that gap and sort of getting to a point where his punches don't have the same leverage and you can actually get into the mat?
It comes down to watching his footage, watching how he moves. People don't change that much. If you watch my first fight to current fights, people move the kind of same way. They don't develop massive amounts of skill over a short period of time. So he's still going to be doing the exact same thing. And I'm not saying what he's doing, because what he does, he's very specific at what he does, and he's very, very good at it. That's why he fought for the title. That's why he was fighting Cormier. That's why he's still in the mix. But watching his footage and drilling that stuff and drilling it and drilling it and drilling it, and it's like drillers make killers, and it's the famous Bruce Lee quote is like, I'm going to butcher it, it's like, don't fear the man that does 1,000 kicks once, fear the man that does one kick 1,000 times. And it just comes down to finding what you're going to do and just drilling it until it becomes your bread and butter, until it becomes your muscle memory, until it becomes the minute you take a shot, you know exactly where you're going. And it's the same as jiu-jitsu. We do the exact same thing. We spend a long period of time learning our set move, so then it becomes second nature to you. And I believe that's what I did for this camp. I know what he's going to do. He knows what I'm going to do, and it's like, right, who can employ their game plan the quickest?
Yeah, Volkan's got his knockout punch power. Your knockout is your triangle, right? Yeah. That's your go-to. That's the thing that's got you so many wins in the UFC. Which one of those triangle finishes for you was the most satisfying? Was it the first, the one against Ankalaev, or was it the last one potentially against Krylov?
It's tough, because the one in London, that first time in London, was the fourth fight in my contract. It was the first contract I'd ever signed for the UFC. I'm coming off 2 losses. Doubts in the head. I shouldn't be here. You're always doubting your abilities. I shouldn't be in the UFC. You're a guy from Scotland who's fluked his way to get here. And then last second, he just flukes it again. And I remember standing up and just thinking, like, it changed my life. So for me, yeah, I think that's the guy. That has to be the guy. That's the moment that changed my life. I know I say Glasgow was the moment where I realised that I need to lean into my strengths, but that's the moment it's like, right, Paul, you deserve to be here. You just beat the guy who are attempting to be the next big thing in the light heavyweight division. And even if you look at his rise now, like, He's an absolute stud. He's knocking people out. He's submitting people. Well, he's not submitting people. He's knocking people out, and he's taking them to decisions. He didn't do that to me. Didn't knock me out. I took some of his best shots, and I managed to still submit the Dagestani destroyer. And like right now, there's rumours going about in Dagestani that, like, you heard of the boogeyman? It's the bear Jew. Kids look under their bed and ask their dad to look under, and the dad has to ask the mum to look under because the dads are shitting themselves. They're like, is the bear Jew there? Because in Dagestani, like, I think I've taken 3 Russians at the moment, so I'm the boogeyman in there.
You're not going to tell us what bear Jew means, are you?
No.
Every time we ask you, you say you won't.
No.
You're still keeping that one.
Look under the bed and maybe you'll...
Yeah. Final one, just sort of tying back to what you were saying there. You mentioned almost like that imposter syndrome that you had early on in your UFC career. Is that all in the bin now?
Yeah, it's always going to be there because you're always going to doubt your own abilities. And the only way to do it, the only way to like improve it is to constantly work with the best that you can get. Like training with Tom Aspinall, training with guys who are better grapplers, and being able to survive these exchanges in boxing, going to boxing gyms, and that's only going to improve it because you're always going to be like, oh, am I good enough to be here? It's always going to be there. I imagine it's people who get really good jobs and they're like, I've kind of fluked myself into this. I shouldn't really be here. Like, there's always going to be times. It doesn't matter what sport you're doing or where you are in life. There's always going to be times where you're going to be doubting yourself. And I think it's a good thing to have. I think it's a thing that will keep you grounded. Whereas if you're so arrogant, you're like, no, I can't be touched in the world of work or in the world of sport. Then that's where you're going to fall very hard.
Brilliant. Thank you.
Well, obviously, it was
sorry.
just over here. Great night for you last time. In UFC London. How do you think it goes down again? This weekend.
I know. On Saturday, I would love it to go the way of a triangle. Like, that would be 3 triangles in London. This is the 3rd time I've fought here. That would just be the icing on the cake for me to beat another top 10 opponent with a triangle in London, and then that would be taking me into I might be in like a top 1 or 2 for the most triangles in the light heavyweight division. Like, all these kind of things are stuff that I want. I don't need money, I don't need fame, I don't need any of that kind of stuff. What I want is stuff like to be remembered for that last minute submission or that last second submission, to be remembered for like getting beat up and then coming back countless times, to be remembered for like just what I did in the sport, be it the most triangles, be it receiving the most knockouts, be it whatever it is. I just want to be remembered within the sport. I want to look back in my career, and I want my kids and my family to look back in my career, and the kids to look back and be like, my grandpa or my dad or whoever it was fought in the UFC, and this is what he did, bum, 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 bum. And being part of that, like being put into the computer game was another moment in my life that changed, like, amazing. Having my daughters beating me up and knocking me out, that's what they do, like go to your room, stop knocking me out. But like, they're knocking me out, and I remember like they just released it, and within about 2 seconds I'd been already knocked out about twice, and I'm like, at least give me a bit of a chance. And they're going like heavyweights and just knocking me out. So that kind of stuff, having like sports cards, the top trump cards, all this kind of stuff is just leading into like my legacy within this sport.
And those kind of things like the records, setting highest record for triangles and things like that, does that mean more to you than perhaps the title?
Yes, I think so. I mean, the title will be amazing because you are in actual history, but all these kind of things, like, nobody remembers who was the champion before. Like, I know the champion now, I know the champion the last couple of times, so I'm actually watching it, I'm being like, I need to know who these are. But champions come and go. I would like to be remembered for moments rather than just having the title and then walking off into the sunset. For me, it's about all these moments, the last seconds, the getting beat up and then coming back. They're worth more to me than a bit of gold.
And what do you think about the new champion, Yuri Prochazka?
I think, like, watching his fight and watching Glover, a man at 42, you're like, right, there's definitely scope. Because I'm watching this thinking, I would have finished that. I'd have finished that as well. probably when you've done that and I've finished that, and then it gives you confidence in your own abilities. But then watching fights, it gives you this, like, people do it all the time, like I'm out in like restaurants with my family or in nightclubs and people come up to me like, I would have done this, and I'm doing the exact same thing, watching, I would have done this, you shouldn't have done that. So it's watching fights, it lures you into this false sense of security where you're like, oh, I'd have just done this and won the fight within about 2 seconds. It's different, but it gives me confidence in my ability. Do I think he'll be the champion long? No, I think there's, as I said, I've got a lot of hope that the Ankalaev takes that title, because I believe if he takes that title very, very soon, then I've got a rematch, because he's only at 1 loss in his record, and it's only to me. So I hope he does it. I hope he takes it, because then it's an easier route to the final for me.
Hey, Tim from Sports Key to here. Your 35th birthday is coming up in November. What does the future hold in your MMA career? I
know. 35 is my number, and it'd been my number for a long time. And the reason it'd been my number for a long time was because I didn't think the body would hold up. I thought training day in, day out, putting the body through what I put it through, it wouldn't hold up. Body's an amazing thing. It just keeps going. So that number changed, and I believe I've got another 4 or 5 years left. And I know I said, no, I need to leave at 35. I don't think there's ever been a fighter who's just left happily, like just left the sport and been like, I've still got more left in the tank, but I'm just going to leave the sport. It doesn't happen. Fighters are fighters for a reason. They're going to fight the rest of their life. And we see it right now. Guys are coming out of retirement just to fight one last time. I'll just have one more. I'll just have one more. I'll just have one more. When my career will end is when the UFC contract stops coming. I've said this before, where I don't want to take damage for anything less than the best. So for me, once the UFC contract stops ending, then it's time to walk away from the sport.
Oh, that's a great answer. Thank you. Is light heavyweight the home for you? Because I imagine it's going to be harder cutting weight, sustaining on a diet of meats and tatties in the future, correct?
Yep. So we did think about, like, we could probably move down weights and all this kind of stuff, but I just think light heavyweight's where I'm at. It's where I've not got the advantage of being the strongest, and I've not got the advantage to being the quickest, but what I've got is the advantage of dealing with guys who are muscly, guys who are very bullish and want to drop heavy mallets and prove themselves, loads of bravado in the light heavyweight division to knock people out, and I believe that's where I should be. We did do like DEXA scans and all that kind of stuff to see if we could actually make the lower weight classes, and it's impossible. Carry too much weight in between my legs.
All good, thanks.
There are a few people who were like, my man.
Just one from me, Paul.
Where are you at? Oh, sorry about it.
Okay.
Sorry, this side.
I remember you said that when we last spoke that you wouldn't let your kids come to watch you fight.
Yep.
But now they're beating you up on the video game. Has your mindset changed on that at all?
No, as I said, it doesn't even matter if you 100% know you're going to win. Even then, you can't bring your kids there. They don't have the option to decide yes or no, because if you say, oh, you want to come to the fight, they're going to say yes. But in that moment, you seeing your dad getting punched in the face, like, that's horrible. I couldn't imagine watching my dad. Like, I would love to see my dad in his 50s, maybe he's like 60s, sorry, going out and dusting folk in the street. I think it'd be brilliant. But there's always that chance that he doesn't get the victory. So for me, you can't put your kids through that. They're young, especially girls. I've got this, like, I'm softer because I've got girls. I think I'd be a lot tougher if I was a boy. I'd be like, you're not man up, just die. Like, maybe hit me. I wouldn't. Maybe I would. No, I wouldn't. This guy's killing it. But no, I'm softer because I've got girls, and I try and protect them as much as I can for what I do as a sport. I feel bad sometimes because people come up to me and they take time. I was at a gig recently, and I was standing there with my daughter, and it was really busy, and this guy just came up. He was absolutely sloshed, and he's like, "Gives a picture." Like, it's the classic way somebody in Scotland asks for a picture. "Gives a picture." And I was like, "Aye, 2 minutes." So I like say to my daughter, like, stand there and I get a picture. The guy, "Bring your daughter in the picture." And I was like, "No, mate, you're not even getting a picture now, man, because you're just making an absolute ass of yourself." And that's like, I feel bad because my daughter's never asked to be involved in that. And I think that's the same as every Like, I'm not saying I'm a celebrity, but any sort of athlete, celebrity, they don't want their kids involved in it. But they need to be involved in it, and I feel bad because, as I said, it's not their choice. It was my choice to bring him into it. So if I can keep them away from it as much as possible, then I will. And I've said this before. One of the biggest things that I hate about being a fighter is what other kids will say to my kids about their dad being a fighter. The classic one would be, "I would knock your dad." That's like, I imagine my kids hear that every single day of their life. "Well, I would knock your dad," and it'll be hard for them. So I try and keep them away from it as much as possible.
Paul, just a quick one for me. What would your advice be to Darren Till? Obviously, he's saying that he's going through his Tyson Fury moment. You've been through adversity as well. What would your advice be for him?
You know, Dan Till's going to be a millionaire the rest of his life. He's got the skill, he's got the chat, he's got everything, and he's going to come back, and he's going to come back in a big way. The same as most fighters who have the skill of being able to knock people out. His striking is superb, and he was flattening people and then getting the ability. You rise quickly into these divisions, have that title shot. It's just a matter of time before the same thing happens again, because a guy like Dan Till has always got that skill set of being an outstanding striker. Not only this, Dan Till's grappling is superb. His wrestling, his grappling. Like, Dan Till is an amazing fighter.
Is it a lonely place, though, when a fighter goes through something like that? Obviously, when you lost in Glasgow, how lonely is that for a fighter? Yeah,
it's horrible, because people will come up to you and say, "Oh, it wasn't your night," but they don't know what you're going through. And even, like, you have 12 to 14 weeks at a hard fight camp, giving everything, like, not having niceties with your family. Like, I remember being in the pictures and eating a tub of pasta while my kids are turning into popcorn and Skittles and all these kind of nice sugary sweets. Well, I'm eating this dry ass pasta in the cinema. And I've been in the cinema before. Like, I've been in the cinema and people have pulled out food, and I've been like, what are they doing? Pulling out food that stinks? I became one of the people. So all these sacrifices, and then somebody's trying to say to you, "Oh, it's fine. You'll come back. You'll be all right." It's no simple as that. You've got to go through the emotional state of grief and all this kind of stuff that goes along with grieving. That's all the time we have, guys. Thank you. Sorry, guys.